Welcome to S3 University's training on the 9600 series phones from Avaya. All of these phones will be IP phones. There are several different phones in the 9600 series. You have the 9608, the 9611G, the 9620L, the 9620C, the 9621G, the 9630G, the 9640, the 9640G, the 9641G, the 9650G, and the 9650C. Today we're going to be going over the 9621G. All of the phones that I mentioned have 24 programmable buttons, or appearance buttons, as you can see here. On the display we have 4 appearance buttons, or 4 buttons that are displayed. We have our first 3 are appearances, that last one is a feature, and then you can use these arrows to scroll up and down on your appearances. You'll notice, if you can see it, it's a little bit hard to see, but that little yellow selector will select the different appearances. There's 24 different buttons that you can select using the touchscreen with the up and down arrow keys. Now, some of you might have a different model phone than what I'm actually using right now, in which case you might have actual appearance buttons or physical buttons on the right and left hand sides of the screen. Those buttons will do the same thing as this touchscreen. The difference is that it's just not touchscreen. So I'm scrolling all the way back up to the top, and now I have my first appearance selected. So if I wanted to use this appearance, I could tap it to open up dial tone. The same can be done by clicking on one of the physical buttons that aligns with the appearance on the screen, just so you know. So like I said, some of the phones have touchscreens, some of the phones don't. Some of them will be color screens like we have here, and some of the phones won't be color screens. Some of the phones support extra button modules, and some phones don't. There should be a quick reference guide for your phone that will tell you whether it has physical appearance buttons, a color touchscreen, or whether it can support extra button modules or not. Now to get on to the major features of the buttons on the phone, the physical buttons themselves. As far as the bottom portion of the phone is concerned, pretty much every model that I listed will be laid out similar to what you see here. So I will go over these buttons first, and then I'll go over the touchscreen that we have here on the 9621G. Alright, so most phones in the 9600 series will have the message button. In fact, all phones will have the message button. The message button will be used to go to your voicemail. So, like we have here, we have visual voicemail set up on our IP Office system. If you have visual voicemail, this message button will take you directly to your voicemail or your visual voicemail. If you don't have visual voicemail, this message button will take you directly to a standard voicemail, which means it will open up a speakerphone on your first appearance, and you'll be able to interact with your voicemail that way. Moving over to the right hand side, every phone in this list should have a phone button, which can also be called the exit button or the home button. So we click phone, and that will take us back to our main screen where we can see our 3 appearances. They all should have a touch tone pad like this. We'll have a star and a pound on the other side. They also should have these 3 buttons in the middle here, which have contacts, home, and history. I'll go through these. The contacts button takes you to a list of contacts in the system, so you can see I can call accounts, which happens to be a hunt group. Bob Rogers is a user, and then I can use the arrows here to scroll down to different users in the list. You'll notice that it's not going to each individual user, it's actually paging down one page at a time to see my contacts. If you have a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen, your phone will have a circular ring, maybe right around here in the phone, that has the different arrow keys and an OK button. Those arrow keys would be used to page down in this menu as well, and your display should look something similar to this, maybe not colored though. You'll also notice that I have 4 soft touch keys on this phone that correspond with the different buttons on the menu. So if I wanted to call the accounts button from the contacts page, so if I wanted to call the accounts, I could click call here, and it would call accounts. Now I have a soft key that says drop, and I can drop that call. On a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen, you'll actually have 4 soft key buttons that are physical buttons that correlate with a display above the button in a black box. So you should see the same menu options that I have here. Instead, you'll have a white button that corresponds. But for those of you who have touchscreen phones, you'll do it just like I'm doing it, where you just touch the screen where the button is. So that's contacts. I'm going to go back to that and show you a couple more things about that. You'll notice I have call, which I showed you. Details will give you details about the contact that you select. So if I want the details on the accounts, I'll notice that it's extension 2303 and it's a system group. If I hit list, it goes back to my contact list, so basically back in the menu directory. And then my third button is new. So this is where I could add a new contact if I wanted to. So by clicking new, I can type in a new contact and so on. And then I can get out by pushing the little red X. It should take me back to my list. You'll also notice at the top of here, I have arrow keys that are right and left. I can touch those to change whether I'm in the personal contacts, all my contacts. Scroll over a couple more times. I should have external, and then all the users, groups, and it should just cycle back to the all screen again. The same can be done on a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen. You'll just use that navigation panel that's in the middle. It's a circle with an OK button to scroll left and right to get to the different groups or different contact lists. Now, moving away from our contacts, I'm going to use the phone button to go back home. And then I have a home button. Now this is kind of tricky because on the IP phones it says home. On all the phones it says home, but it's actually just a menu. So you click the home button to get to the phone menu, where on an IP phone you're going to have settings. With the touchscreen phones you're going to have the world clock, weather, calculator, and different apps that you can use depending on whether your phone is connected to the internet or not. So if I tried to use the world clock now, my phone is not connected to the internet. So if I type in a zip code for the clock, let's say, it's going to say could not access internet service. So just basically letting me know that I don't have those features available. I can use the calculator, however. I'm going to show you how to use that. So if you tap the calculator, I can use the touch tone pad here to enter numbers. So let's say 12, hit the little divided symbol, make sure I hit it, divided by 4 equals 3, and that's a calculator that you can use on your desk. If I click the menu button again, I should get back to the same menu, and then you'll notice I have settings on the far right hand side. This is going to be where your major phone settings are. Now I want to point out a major feature about IP phones that you might have to do depending on how your system's set up. Some IP phones will have to log out and log back in depending on their user. If that occurrence happens, so I'm going to pretend that I have to log in on this phone, so I can click log out again. So if you sit down at your desk and it's giving you a screen like this where you have to log in with your extension and user, then you would do something like this. At first it'll start off like this. So I know that this IP phone or this user is going to be extension 2601. I have backspace, which will go back 1. I have clear, which will clear out the whole menu. And then I have enter, which will take me to the next screen. So it's saying I have 2601 as my extension, and now it's asking for my password on that line. I've set it up as 1234, but yours may be different. I've typed in the password. Again, I can use backspace, clear to change that or edit that password, and then click enter to log in. Once you're logged in, your phone should log itself in, and you should see the same programmable buttons that I was showing you earlier. So again, the menu button in the middle can take you to the phone settings, where you have options and settings, your logout information. You can turn the light off on your touchscreen, and then you have a back button. Again, you have arrows to go down to farther menus, and you would use the circular pad on a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen. But I'm going to go back to the menu, and again, if I hit home, I can go back to my appearance buttons. This third button in this list is called history, or call log, some people like to call it. If you hit the history button, you'll see a list or a call log of calls that I've made recently or missed recently. On the touchscreen phones, you'll notice that I have 4 different options at the top. I have what this button would be all, so my entire call log, whether that's outgoing, incoming, missed, and so on. I have a little phone with a blue arrow that's pointing up, that would be outgoing calls. So these are calls that I've made out. These are calls. The next one is a green arrow in. These are calls that I've received in and answered. And then the last one is missed calls that I've had. So I don't have any missed calls or incoming calls because I just set this phone up and I don't have any calls yet. But let me show you how that works. So if I get a call, and let's say that I missed the call. So now you'll see that in my display I have a missed call icon. I can tap that and go straight to my missed call directory. Or, from the phone screen, I can hit history, and then the little missed call button in the far right, and it'll show me the same list. You'll notice I have the soft keys now at the bottom. I can call that person. I can see the details on that contact. I can delete that log, meaning that if I click delete, it will delete my missed call log, and then I can click exit. So, moving down here to the left-hand side of the touchpad, I have a forward button, a headset button, and a speakerphone button. And then on the right-hand side, I have volume and mute. So the forward button would be to forward your phone. So I can if I click the forward button, it's going to give me options at the top. So I can forward. It has forward me to, forward me here, forward unconditional, forward busy, no answer, and exit. So I can do forward me to and then enter a certain number and save that, and it'll forward to that number. I have follow me here, and I can do the same thing, and then so on. Again, phone will take you to the main screen. The next button in this list is the headset button. This would be if you had a headset that you wanted to use with your phone. You would click this button on, and then any call that was directed to you would be directed to your headset and not the handset. So you'll notice I have a little red light on this button now. That means that my button is active, meaning all calls will be directed to my headset, not my handset. I can turn that off and on by tapping that button. And then the button below that is speakerphone. If I tap that button, it's going to open up a line through my speaker. I'm going to show you the speaker here. See, this is where your speakerphone is. This is your speaker here. And then the mic for the speakerphone is down here in the bottom right. You have a little 3 lines or 3 holes in the phone. That's going to be your mic. Again, you'll notice that when the red light's on, my speakerphone is active, and when the red light's off, it's not active. On the right-hand side, I have the volume buttons and the mute button. The volume buttons work in a couple different ways. If the phone is completely idle, meaning the handset is on the hook and you're not in a call, the volume button will change the volume of the ring of the phone. So if I turn this all the way up, it should ring really loud. If I turn it farther down, it should ring softer. So that's going to tell you how loud your ring is if someone were to call you. Another way the volume key works is if I take the handset off the hook, the volume will now control the speaker for the handset. So if I don't want the speaker to be too loud in my ear, I might turn that down so that this speaker is softer in my ear, or up if I can't hear. That's if you have the handset off the hook. The volume key also works for speakerphone. So if I enable speakerphone and then use the volume key, I'm turning up and down the volume of this speaker. And then last but not least, you have your headset button. If headset is enabled, then you can turn your volume on your headset up and down using the volume keys. And you'll notice that I always have a volume slider at the top and a little icon to tell you which one you're actually changing. So right now I'm changing the headset. Right now I'm changing the speakerphone. Right now I'm changing the handset. And then last but not least, I'm changing the ringer of the phone, so you'll get a little bell. Underneath that button, you have a mute button. Underneath the volume keys, you have a mute button. The mute button is also a toggle, like the speakerphone button, so I turn it on and off. You'll notice when the phone is idle, meaning the handset is on the hook and I'm not in a call, the mute button doesn't do anything. It doesn't turn on, it doesn't turn off, it's just an empty button. The mute button is only used when I'm in the middle of a call or on call. So if the phone is off the hook, you'll notice that I can turn the mute on. The mute will stop my speech or silence my speech to the person on the other end. So when the red light is active, that means the person on the other end of the phone cannot hear me talking. You'll also get a little icon in the top left of your screen on these colored screens. You'll get a little icon that shows you that your mic is muted. Sorry. To turn it off so they can hear you again, you just tap the button one more time. The light should go off, and that means that they should be able to hear you on the other end. You can do the same thing in speakerphone by touching the button. You can see the light, so now I'm muted on the other end, and so on. So now I'm going to go over the display of this particular phone. It should correlate pretty similarly with the phone that you may be using if it's not this one, but there may be a couple differences that I talked about in the beginning of the video. So on this display, you'll notice that it is color. If I go to the main menu, I have green, blue, yellow, so it is a very colorful display, which is nice. You'll have the user in the top left, followed by the extension of the user, the time, and the date. Whoops, didn't mean to turn that on, sorry. The date. You'll have your appearance buttons, any features on the first page, and then this arrow key system on the right hand side that you can use to select different appearances and eventually different features if you scroll down far enough. Oop, too far. There we go. You'll also notice the soft keys that I was talking about earlier, and those should correlate with physical buttons on a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen. Same with the appearance buttons. On a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen, you should have physical buttons on the side that will correlate with your appearances on either side. Now, let's go over how to enable dial tone or get to dial tone from your phone. On this phone and on all the other phones, they work really similarly, and you can do it multiple ways. One of the best ways, or one of the most efficient ways, or easiest ways, is going to be to take the handset directly off the hook. You'll notice that I have a little phone icon, and it's vertical, not pointing down or up, it's just pointing to the right. That means that I have dial tone, and I'm on that first appearance. So just by lifting off the hook, I have dial tone. Another option would be to use the speakerphone. So if I tap the speakerphone, I now have the same icon, and I have dial tone through my speaker. I can turn it off by tapping the speakerphone again. You get the same thing if you turn the headset on. So now the phone is assuming that I have a headset, and then I have dial tone through that headset now. In which case I can just tap the headset button and drop that call. You're also able to select the appearance itself. So on a touchscreen phone, you could select the appearance on the screen. You get dial tone through the speaker. I can drop that call through the drop button on the display or through the speakerphone button, either way. On a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen, you'll have physical buttons over here that you can press to enable that dial tone through the appearance button itself. And then last but not least, on this phone, you can just dial directly, and it should open up your speakerphone on your first appearance. Meaning that if I wanted to dial an extension that I have internally, I could dial, let's say, 2203. And it's going to automatically start that call on the speakerphone because the handset is still on the hook. I can hang it up that way. I can use the drop call button here. On other phones that have the navigation key that has a ring with an OK button, you can also click the OK to start dial tone through the speaker if the handset is on the hook. At any point, if the handset is off the hook, you can use the drop call button to leave the handset off the hook but not be connected. At this point, if the handset is off the hook and you were to use any of the methods other than speakerphone, for instance, if I tap the appearance button, my call is not connected through speaker anymore, it's connected through my handset, in which case I can drop here or I can hang up. I'll choose to drop at this point so I can show you another method. Dialing out now directly will not go through my speakerphone but through my handset because the handset is off the hook. Again, I can drop or just hang the phone back up and the call should drop. So those were several ways that you can enable dial tone on your phone. Now let's go through how to make calls, receive calls, and what you can do using the buttons on your phone during a call or when someone's calling you. So first we're going to go through how to make a call, or how to dial out or start a call. Again, you can use the handset to start dial tone, in which case you can just dial an extension. I can dial an extension directly from the keypad to start a call. I can hit speakerphone, followed by a number or an extension to dial a call. I can also hit an appearance, followed by an extension or number to make a call. Now receiving phone calls. So let's say we receive a phone call from Lori, and I want to answer a phone call. So I can have a couple different options. If the phone call is only one appearance, so if I'm only having one phone call at a time, I can just pick up the handset and that call will be connected. Putting the handset back will disconnect the call. I can also choose to just click the answer button, in which case it would go through speakerphone if my handset is still on the hook. I have the option to tap the appearance, in which case it will open up through the speakerphone. I can drop or tap the speakerphone to hang up. And I can also use the speakerphone button itself if there's only one call. Tap the speakerphone to disconnect, and you should be good. So let's say someone calls you. You'll notice that your soft keys have changed. I now have answer, which I just showed you, to voicemail or to VM, ignore, and drop. So let's say I want to send that caller straight to voicemail. I tap to voicemail, and that caller has been sent directly to my voicemail instead of me ever picking up the line or them having to wait to get to voicemail. I also have ignore, which lets me ignore the call, meaning that my phone will become silent or not ring anymore, but that person will still wait through my ring cycles until they get to voicemail. And then last but not least, you should have a drop button. The drop will just end that call. For those of you that don't have a touchscreen, your phone will still have these same options, but they will correlate with the physical keys that are underneath the display, not on the display itself. So you'll have a white key that correlates with answer, and another white key that correlates with to voicemail. So let's say we're on a call, so we're actually connected, so let's have Lori call me back. I'm going to connect to that call. You'll notice that I have 4 different options on the bottom now. So I no longer have answer to voicemail, ignore, and drop. I now have hold, conference, transfer, and drop. So if I want to put Lori Louderback on hold, let's say, I would tap the hold button. Lori Louderback is on hold. You'll notice that the blue bar has become gray, and the phone icon is now an upside down phone with a line underneath, indicating that the phone is on hold. I can get back to Lori just by tapping on that button. The blue has indicated that we're connected and we're ready to go. I can also push hold again if I wanted to, and so on. So let's say someone else calls me on another appearance. So I'm talking to Lori, but I'm getting another call. I can place Lori on hold and then answer the other call. So you'll notice that my icon is now pointing to the right, meaning I'm connected to the second caller. I can put them on hold and go back to Lori, or vice versa, just by tapping the screen. Again, this will work if you just use your appearance buttons on the physical appearance buttons on the right or left hand side. You'll also notice I have a conference button. So let's say I wanted to connect these 2 calls or join these 2 calls. I just have to tap on one of the calls, click conference, and both of those line appearances will merge into one call. And now I'm a conference with both. If I hang up, both of the other parties will still be on call with each other, but I'll be out of the call. So to show you the conference in another way, so let's say I'm on call with Lori, and let's say I want to dial in someone else. I want to conference in someone else. To do that, I click on conference to tell the phone that I want to conference a line. It opens up my second appearance to call someone, so 2203, let's say. So now I'm calling 2203. Let's say they pick up, and I want to conference those. Now I merge the two together by clicking conference again, and now I have a conference call with all three of us. I can simply hang up, and we're good to go. Last but not least, we have transfer. So let's say I'm on a call with Lori and I need to transfer her to another extension. I would simply click the transfer button. The phone is going to ask me which extension or which number I want to transfer to. Simply type that in. And then you complete the transfer by tapping the complete button. You can also cancel that if you typed in the wrong extension or something like that. But let's complete it. Shows you that my phone is no longer connected to another phone and Lori's been sent to 2203. On the display, you'll also notice you have a redial and a feature button as long as you're on the main phone screen. So if I'm not in a call, if not receiving a call, not making a call, if my phone is idle, I should have redial and features on my main screen, and those should correlate with soft key buttons if you don't have a touch screen button, sorry. If I hit redial, it's going to take me to a list of recently dialed contacts. So you'll notice that I just called extension 2203, I talked to Lori, 2204, and some random 952 number I accidentally dialed in. Let's say I want to call Lori back from this screen. There's a couple different ways I can do it. I can hit Lori Louderback's name, followed by call, and that will work. I can also scroll down using the arrow keys to select a user, click call, and do the same thing. On a phone that doesn't have a touchscreen, you would actually use the circle navigation keys in the middle to navigate your display. Again, I can click exit to get back to the main screen, or hit phone. The phone will do the same thing. And you'll notice I have features on one side. So if I click features, I can get to the different features of the phone using the navigation keys here or the touch screen on the display. Click phone again to get back out. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how to use voicemail on a phone like this. So if I tap the message button, again, it'll take me to the voicemail menu. And like I said before, it'll either take you to visual voicemail or it'll take you to standard voicemail. With visual voicemail, it works something like this. So you'll notice I have listen, message, greeting, passcode, and so on down the list using my arrow keys up to voicemail on or off. Now let's say I do have a voicemail. So I'm going to give myself a voicemail. Well, I got to turn my voicemail on real quick. Hold on a second. So my voicemail's on. Let's say I get a call. And I send it straight to voicemail.
Your call has been answered by Avaya IP Office. Extension 2601 is not available. To leave a message, wait for the tone. When finished recording, press pound for more options. Record at the tone.
This is a test message for the tutorial video on the 9600 series phones. So, once I have a voicemail, you'll notice two different things. I have a light in my message button that's highlighted red, and I also have a light in my message waiting indicator at the top right corner of my phone. So these two lights tell me that I have a voicemail waiting on my phone. So to check that, I tap the message button. You'll notice in my listen category, I have a 1 followed by 2 zeros. Basically what that means, if I tap that, I have 1 new message, 0 old messages, and 0 saved messages. Again, I can use all these display functions with the appearance buttons and with the navigation keys in the middle if I don't have a touchscreen. So let's say I want to listen to that new message. I can select it by using the navigation key and clicking OK, or on a touchscreen phone, just tapping the word new. I can see that it's from Lori Louderback, and let's say I want to play that message.
This is a test message.
So this is the message I just left. I can pause it. I can play it. I can call this person back. So let's say I want to call them directly. I can just click call, in which case it'll make that call for me. Now that I've listened to that voicemail, you'll notice that it's moved into the old messages. So if I go back to there, I can see that I can call them. I can go back now with this back button, which just takes me back to the previous menu. And then I have a more button as well. The more button will basically give me a couple different options. I can delete the voicemail, save the voicemail, or copy the voicemail and send it again. You also have message, in which case you can record your voicemail message. Greeting, you can record your greetings. And then passcode, and then voicemail on and off. That's how you would use your voicemail. And again, you can click exit or phone to get back to the main screen of the phone. And that should sum up the 9600 series for Avaya. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your day.